Hello and welcome to the newest edition. Oh, it's gone wrong already. To the newest edition of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. My name is John, and alongside me tonight I have Aaron.
Yeah, hi. You nearly forgot your name there.
Nearly forgot my name. Nearly forgot your name. Nearly forgot what a podcast is. So
I actually wanted the last 5 minutes to be in the podcast itself, trying to figure out this platform. Marty, well done.
We said it on social media this week, and I said it yesterday myself on Twitter. Without Marty, who is clearly not here tonight, there is no podcast, and without him, there nearly wasn't a podcast. So congratulations, Marty, on your birthday yesterday. I believe you're out having a bit of fun tonight for your birthday.
Can't believe he's 48.
I know. Imagine
48. He looks good for 48.
Does he?
Love you, Marty.
Anyway. Yeah. So here's the first comment of the night. Campbell Porter, only 6 minutes late. Thanks very much, Campbell. You can see who it is who's trying to run the show here tonight. So, yeah, thanks very much, mate. Looking forward to your input tonight.
We're lucky it's not half an hour late.
Yeah. Marty, Aaron, there we go.
Hi.
It's just going to continue on like this all night, folks. Feel free to stick with us if you think you can manage it. Aaron, how are you?
I'm absolutely all right. I got to very nicely join a very good game live at the O. Was that last Saturday? Is that already a week? And we're going to talk about that game later on. But what an amazing game! What an amazing atmosphere! And that was my first live game since playoffs, without actually watching videos and stuff like that, watching online. But yeah, it was amazing, and I was able to bring my son with me, who's only 5.5, but was taking it all in. Hearing your 5-year-old son cheering Giants and Besco at the end, that was the highlight of my week.
Surely, if he's like that already, he's going to be a Boomerang Cornet Ultra before you know it.
You never know. He's
going to be up there. Goals come in, taps off, shirt, jersey swinging around his head, setting off flares, getting thrown out for being drunk and disorderly. It's all coming very quick.
It's all coming very quick. And then I'm out to Washington in October, and I was hoping to catch a game, but of course I arrive on the Sunday and I fly out on the Friday, and there's a game on the Saturday. So I'm not going to catch a Caps game, which sucks. But hey,
shocking.
I wondered. Dave was out to Israel last time we were having a podcast. Right. And he said that he did look up hockey out in Israel, and apparently it's not that big.
Really? I'm shook. I am shook to my core about that news.
Yeah, strange. What about you? How are you?
I am good. Busy couple of days over in Belfast for a wedding. Over to Belfast, then a wedding in Donegal. Which unfortunately kept me away from the rink on Saturday. I was as close as I could be to a game without actually being at it, which was shocking, really. I know where... Pretty sure my wife doesn't listen to this, so I can say I know where I would have preferred to be. But yeah,
it was a game.
Just for the... Like, we're gonna come on and talk about that game in period one, but... For anyone who is joining expecting a couple of the usual faces, obviously there are a couple of faces missing. Marty, as we said, is celebrating his 53rd birthday this week. Many happy returns to you. He's away doing, I'm sure, something a lot more fun than listening to us ramble on.
Getting fitted out for a Zimmer frame.
I think they've decided to go with the one that doesn't have the wheels because he just doesn't have the facilities for it anymore.
Yeah.
And Dave, unfortunately, as you said, he's come back from Israel and is just not feeling too hot, so he is on the injured reserve once again for this podcast. Aaron, normally this lovely intro lasts forever and ever, but considering the two of us have told everyone out there on social media how we are, I think it's about time that we shift very neatly onto period one.
Sounds good.
seamless.
I'm so
Period.
impressed so far. So far, very impressed, John.
Yeah, not a single thing has gone wrong.
Not
Uh, period one then is our local coverage. I very nearly once again forgot what period one is because normally this is Marty's job. Um, we look at things around the Elite Ice Hockey League and the other British leagues, but we are sticking very, very specifically with the Elite League in this one this time. Marty very helpfully has done quite a lot of work for this podcast for someone who's not here. So we're actually going to start by chatting a little bit about a story that he threw in there, Aaron. And this was the news out of the Elite League that for pre-season games in the Elite League this season, almost 25,000 fans have been in attendance for pre-season.
This is amazing to see.
That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely amazing to see. And I know you're gonna go through the stats now, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go through the stats. I know them off by heart. I'm not currently reading them on the screen over to the other side here at all. If anyone sees me not paying attention to the camera, it's nothing to do with reading the stories that I haven't read. So the Elite League put out that a total of 24,697 spectators took in 7 games over the 2 days of the first full Elite League pre-season weekend just passed. Sheffield Steelers recorded a crowd of over 9,000 at the Utilitia Arena to see their game against Nottingham, which ended 4-1. That was the single biggest game of the weekend. In Scotland, both the Flyers and the Stars had almost 2,000 fans for their local derby games against each other. Glasgow set a franchise record for season ticket sales over the summer, played on the road in Cardiff, but will return to Braehead Arena this Friday night, or tomorrow if you're watching live, today if you're listening back to the podcast on release day. These are brilliant numbers. These are fantastic
Absolutely
numbers
amazing.
to see.
Yeah. This early, and I appreciate it's not even seasons, pre-season, but you can just see that there's been that gap. We've had that off season, and everyone's just itching to get back into the arena and to see this ice hockey. And you could the one stat you missed out there was on Saturday night we had what's over 6,000 fans
Yep.
at the SSE, and it was loud. You felt it. It was a great atmosphere on the Saturday night. So let may it keep continuing, and we'll get these stats keep going up. There was a
Yep.
lot of they done this a number of times last year. They kept announcing stats of how many people were going to games. They've done it a couple of times last year, from what I can remember.
Yeah, so included in this story that the league put out is the sort of average figures that they managed to get last season. The average attendance figure on record for 2022-23 Elite League season was over 3,200 per game, and for the first time they surpassed 1 million spectators, for only the second time, 1 million spectators over the entire season. But I think what these preseason numbers are showing is that even though these games are, if you like, nothing games, they are, let's call them friendlies, but we're going to talk later in period 3 about how they very clearly were not friendlies. There's clearly an appetite for hockey out there, especially when you're seeing a team like Fife, Fife and Dundee, actually, let's take them both. Both teams who struggled last year for very different reasons. Both teams who have gone through coaching changes and fairly substantial roster changes coming into this season to hit over 2,000. I mean, 2,000 is a number that the Flyers were desperate for come the middle of last season, even towards the end when they were in the final of the Challenge Cup. That's a sort of number that they would be crying out for in there. So that clearly shows that there's an appetite, and that clearly these teams have made the right changes. Fans are engaged, and people want to watch hockey.
That's I think you've hit the nail on the head, especially when it comes to Fife, that they were struggling at the end of the last season, and the changes that they have made. I'm just actually, you know what? I'm just repeating what you're just what you just said. They've been receptive to it. They're not like, oh no, don't agree with the changes, I'm still not going. It looks like they're agreeing with the changes, and they're wanting to come along, which is great to see.
Yeah, that's it. You're totally right. The fans are voting with their feet. They're voting with their money as well, because these preseason games are not free. to watch for fans either. People are parting with hard-earned cash for essentially games with nothing on the line because they want to see how their team has developed over the summer. They want to see, with the Scottish teams in particular, they want to see how their local rivals are shaping up going into this season. I know that Fife and Dundee, they'll both have their eyes on the Challenge Cup. For looking what Fife did last season, Dundee will maybe have their eyes on doing something similar this season. So yeah, it's really, really impressive to see. On the CHL, with Belfast hitting over 6,000 fans, the other thing that I wanted to highlight from this was that apparently the Giants are currently ranking second with highest average attendances in the CHL, only behind Adler Mannheim of Germany. And they've made that the point has been made that the CHL, whilst being, love it or hate it, whether you like your team or your teams competing in the CHL, whether you agree with that, a team competing in a competition that maybe they don't have much of a chance in, maybe the Giants, and we hope that the Giants have an opportunity to move into playoffs, but it's realistically, it's not a competition that we're probably going to go and win. Whereas you see the Giants playing the likes of Tappara, for example, and that barn's half empty because the fans aren't engaged with this competition. They see it as essentially what the EIHL fans have just come out in numbers for. They see it as a pre-season leg stretch, not really something to get overly excited about. And here's the Belfast Giants proving it the other way around, getting a big win that we're going to talk about in a minute, and getting huge attendances, nearly a sellout for that game. In fact, I think they announced it was a sellout. But if it wasn't, it was damn close. So,
and you've got fans like Mark and Katrina. They were there on Saturday night's game, and they had literally, as far as I know, Mark, if you're listening, you can correct me. You got off the plane like an hour before the game, dropped your bags off somewhere, and then came to the game. When you got fans like that, of course the numbers are going to be good.
Absolutely,
even when you're out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I look forward to being one of those fans for the next CHL game because I will be in attendance. I'll be getting off the plane with about 90 minutes to spare, and I will be at that game.
Awesome.
Right, let's leave that behind, and let's stick with the EIHL, Aaron. And you've been having a look at the Coventry Blaze.
I have, and I was interested with this, and I put a really cheesy title to it. Are they off to a blazing start? I appreciate it's pre-season, but they have been doing fairly okay for themselves over the last for the pre-season. Of course, the Cardiff Devils, like they've won every single pre-season so far. But the Devils, they, with Manchester Storms making their debut in Coventry a couple of nights ago, the Blaze pretty much like knocked them out. To be fair, and the reason why I was interested with this is that this is early starts, but this is a story that we keep seeing year on year with the Blaze, really hitting the ground running and then burning themselves out. I was just wondering what you were thinking about that, John.
Yeah, we've seen, like you say, we've seen it before with teams who come in looking hot through, whether it's pre-season, whether it's the start of the season, through the early stages of the Challenge Cup, looking like they are really on it for the rest of the season and look like they're going to be top 3, top 2 teams, and then it can happen to tail off, and unfortunately that has been the case for the Blaze over the last few seasons. They, like you say, they start the season looking like a force, in much the way that they are just now. They're 4-0 in pre-season or something.
Yeah.
And
beating Manchester at 4-1.
Yeah, or sorry, they 2-0 for play. I don't know how many games. I'm not a Blaze fan. If there's a Blaze fan watching, tell us how many games you've won against how many you haven't lost. But yeah, it's whether that translates to regular season, and how much you can look at the games and say, well, the opposition are dialed in. They're actually playing like we're going to see in a couple of weeks' time.
Yep.
You just it's hard to
It's
balance
hard
that
to.
one. It's hard to figure out exactly what it is that you're looking at, what team you're looking at this point. Um,
Yeah. One thing that
and
caught that when I was reading the highlight of the game itself, because we had the name has escaped me, banners on the wall. Um,
Anthony,
Anthony, sorry, Anthony, on the call last time when we were talking about the NIHL. Um, Connor Lee, 16-year-old, got nearly 11 minutes of ice time in his first game with the Storm, which is pretty cool.
that's awesome.
Um, and that's that. Oh no, sorry, am I getting his name mixed up with someone else? Sorry, it's Finley Hiles has a two-way with Telford Tigers with the NIHL, and he played nearly 9 minutes. But there's two things there. One, 16-year-old logging 11 minutes
Mm-hmm.
with these guys. And then, because we were talking last time about those two ways, we had Finley Hiles playing nearly 9 minutes of the game. So I thought I just wanted to give those two guys a shout out because based on what we were talking about in the last podcast.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that. I mean, these games are ideal for those guys to get ice time.
Yeah.
They're opportunities for coaches to see how these young guys are going to fit in long term with the squad, what they can bring, and then coaches will look at the opportunities then that those guys present. Is it um, when you're going down? I'm going to bring a comment up here that our friend Fuzz has just put in there, and he's absolutely right. Injuries can take their toll on teams, especially the ones that don't have the same depth of roster as the bigger teams. And you're absolutely right. And I think that is proof of the point that I'm sort of trying to make here, is that
Mm.
these guys are looking at what they have in the locker with these young guys. They're not going to get the ice time in the early part of the season that your imports and your more experienced Brits are going to get, but those guys can make a difference when and if injuries, like Fuzz says, start to make an impact on
Yeah.
a team and how they're playing through the season. So, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of any other teams, I know we did talk about looking at like preseason chats and stuff, making predictions and stuff. But we're gonna leave that until hopefully the next podcast when at least three, if not all four of us are together, and we can do our traditional and annual predictions for all three trophies and where we think the season's gonna lie come April, end of April, start of May time. But is there, with the news, any of the news that you've seen, any of the preseason stuff, is there any teams that are you think are ones to watch? Let's say.
I've got to admit, the only one that I've really seen, as I say, was the Cardiff Devils have won like six. Have they played six preseason games already?
Played
Couldn't have
two
been
against
six.
us, two against European teams at least that I know, because we're going to talk about one of those in a second. I'm not sure if it's six or four that they've played. Once again, I'm going to make the point that I'm not a Devils fan and I don't pay attention to them. So if there's a Devils fan watching, you can just correct us on how many games you've won. But I think
Here
you're
we
right.
go.
I think they've got a clean. I think they have a clean sheet.
Yeah, Cardiff
They've
Devils
got.
made it six straight preseason wins with a 4-goal victory over the Glasgow Clan at.
That's right. They had the home away with Glasgow as well.
Yeah. 6 straight wins, man. That's
yeah,
strong.
but take it with a pinch of salt.
Of course.
They have made changes in the roster, in the lineup, but not as many as the Giants have made through this season. So the games that we've played against them before we hit the ice in the CHL, they've had more time to, and their players have more experience of playing together. So the fact that those games went the way that they went, I think it was a shootout and an overtime loss, give or take. I might be wrong on that, but they're neither here nor there. I think the Giants have come good, and again, we're going to talk about how they've come good in a second. They're also then the rest of their games, their European games, it's against teams travelling over to Cardiff. They're lower league teams essentially as well. When you look at the balance of the leagues that they've come from compared to where the Elite League is now, so it's no surprise really that they've won those games. And then the games against the Clan, essentially that is the Clan have got their guys in, and the first thing after one or two training camps or training sessions, they're straight into playing a team that are 4 games deep into their season, more training sessions under their belt. I think the Clan have now got all of their players here in the country, in Renfrew, but I'm not sure that they had absolutely everyone in place for the games with Cardiff. But again, I wouldn't be taking too much from that.
Yeah.
To answer the question I asked you, interestingly, Glasgow are one of the teams to watch for me. I think they've made a few incredibly shrewd signings. I think that is a team on the rise. And watch me eat my words. Watch this happen again, where we say.
But we want it. But we want it to happen. We want. I would love to see any of the Scottish teams really come up the ranks. They're unfortunately they're always that lower end of the table, really, aren't they? We want that change. We want that mix up. So it would be great for the Clan Fife as well, because they've made a fair changes to see them change around. As you say, hopefully you're not eating your words though. Yeah. What changes have you seen that you think are really going to make it for the Clan?
I think the coaching change. I mean, we knew that a coaching change was coming, but just the feeling of the signings and the general attitude around that team at the minute. Yes, you can ridicule them if you want because of this whole massive Glasgow Clan movement that they're talking about. I mean, they're just leaving themselves open for absolute ridicule later down the season if nothing happens.
What's this?
Oh, they're a lot of their fans started we're the massive Glasgow Clan as in a massive club and all the rest of it. Basically, a reaction going the other way from what happened at the end of last season. But it's one of those danger things. Like you stick all your eggs into that sort of messaging and then you don't deliver, and you run the risk of just absolute ridicule from 9 other teams and your own fans later down the line. So I do think that there's potential there. You mentioned Fife as well. Fife are, I think, on the rise yet again. That coaching change, that long-awaited coaching change in Fife. Tom Coolan stepping in on the bench there. Watching some of the social media content coming out of the Flyers over the last few days. Their derby against Dundee, pretty feisty affairs as well. They look like a team on the up. They look like they're using the New Era hashtag. I mean, we used it years ago here in Belfast, but it really does feel like a new era for the Fife Flyers. And if they're getting crowds of over 2,000, surely if over a month's worth of games, everyone chips in £1 at the door, they could get at least half of the car park resurfaced at some point and just spread it out over the season.
How bad is this car park?
It's atrocious.
Is it part of the experience? Is like actually you get to go to the game, but like the first half of it is like getting parked and making sure you don't fall through something.
The first part of the game is getting in there, trying not to wreck your car as you drive in, and getting thrown around in your car because of the potholes, like you're being checked by the opposition team's enforcer.
So it's one of these 4D experiences then.
I mean, it's a 4-day experience if you manage to get yourself stuck in one of the potholes. Fuzz obviously with a bit of experience there. You're not wrong.
Potholes the size of hippos.
You're not wrong. Right, Aaron.
Well, hold on before you move on. We've obviously got Fuzz on listening. We've got Campbell there. You guys are on the chats. Are there any teams that but while we're moving on to the next story, are there any teams that you guys are quite interested in? I'm sure we'll come back to it after the next story.
Yep. If there's anyone on Twitter as well, we will be keeping an eye on the Twitter comments as well. So if you want to throw anything in, please do. We love the interaction that we've been getting since we decided to go live with the podcast. So please do get involved. Aaron, moving us on a little bit here. I want to take us to Cardiff. Cardiff we have to already.
No, I'm joking.
we were talking about their pre-season games against European opposition. And they were playing one of their games, and I'm not going to go into the full ins and outs of it. I'm hoping you've had a chance to see this video while I've kind of vamped for time here. But this is their signing of Riley Brandt, who the Cardiff Devils have lauded since this incident last or 2 weekends ago as being sort of their go-to guy. They think they love to see it, and from the reaction, the Cardiff Devils fans seem to absolutely love to see it as well. But Riley Brandt coming off the bench during an altercation to essentially jump a player, to be honest, making a complete fool of himself, because he tries to jump the player and actually ends up landing on his own head for a start. This is a pre-season game. If he does that in regular season, I would like to think that he sits out a couple of games. Because for a start, he's come off the bench for an altercation. Let alone, this is a sport where head injuries, and like a lot of sports, where head injuries and concussions are being lauded as the big demon in the room. And players need to be protected from this. Here's a player putting himself and his opponent at risk. He jumps on the guy's back and puts them head first onto the ice.
He nearly takes his own head out as well.
Exactly.
You watch the video, the other player's head goes down, and the other player unfortunately doesn't have the support or the balance to support this guy's weight as well. So he goes head down straight onto the ice as well. So as you're right, it's not even just putting the other player in danger, but putting himself in danger.
Yeah.
Do you know when you were originally talking, I hadn't watched it all or got the full thing, and I was thinking it back because I know you were talking about how the Cardiff Devils are getting behind him, and they're loving it. And it kind of reminded me of Sean Morrow.
Sean
McMorrow. Remember we had the sheriff, and he was the big heavyweight, and we all got little sheriff. I have one somewhere, the wee sheriff badge. And he was the heavyweight, and we all got kind of behind that. And up until the point where it was that he came off the ice for that and jumped on the guy's back, I was like, well, we were guilty of that. Fair enough. That was what, 2010. So it was only 13 years ago.
But the point is, you say it's only 13 years ago, but the point is, in those 13 years, the game has moved on. The game has certainly moved on, and player safety is absolutely paramount. We've talked about it quite a lot as incidents have come up here, and anyone who comments on hockey in a fan perspective or a professional perspective or on a podcast or whatever will say words to the effect of that these players are working, they're earning a wage, nobody should expect to go to work and leave it injured in respect of what Riley Brandt has done in this situation. You talk about the Sean McMorrows, you talk about effectively the age of the enforcer. Yeah, I think we're past that now. And let's talk about Brandt for a second. He's not an enforcer. The guy is 5 foot with skates on. I mean, he jumps into the challenge. The guy that he jumps on is a clear 4 or 5 inches taller than him. So it's not like this guy's been signed as an enforcer. What it appears is that his blood's gotten up. It's a pre-season game. He thinks, well, I'm probably not going to take a ban for this. I'm going to come off the bench. I think this is the important thing to bear in mind with all of this, is that he leaves the bench to do this. Yeah. Now, I listened to the 3-on-3 podcast this week. Guys are doing fantastic work on the 3-on-3 podcast. I've kind of put that out on social media myself as well. And Paddy Smith from A View from the Bridge was their guest this week. And it was great to hear Paddy talking and having the freedom to talk not on A View from the Bridge, kind of give his unfiltered opinion on stuff. And do you know what? He's 100% right when he said that he hopes that Riley Brandt continues to do this for the rest of the season. Because, as Paddy says, he'll do it once, he'll take a ban and he'll sit a few games. And I hope he comes off his ban, and I hope he does it again. Because he's going to continue to be the guy in that roster who's going to cost that team games, cost them points, and potentially then cost them trophies as the season goes on.
But then you've got the risk of potentially hurting other players. Yeah, it would be good because he's potentially putting that risk on Cardiff, but then he's putting the risk on other teams' players, our players. But I get where Paddy's coming from, because as you say, then he becomes a hindrance to them.
Yep, you're right.
More than a skill.
I'm going to throw up a comment here that we had from Fuzz on this one before I come back to another comment that he's made. He says that the league should have stepped in already and not let this go, put down a marker of expectation for players and safety. Yeah, I think Fuzz is 100% right. I think you've hit the
so there's no bans with pre-seasons or anything like that.
Nope.
Is that all?
No jurisdiction. Effectively, there's no jurisdiction for the Elite League on this because they're pre-season friendlies, but also because this was a European opposition it was an exhibition game. So effectively, the Elite League Department of Player Safety has no input with regards to this. But Fuzz, I think you're 100% right. I think there should have been something said, even a statement to say this is inappropriate play during the Elite League season. If Riley Brandt or any player conducts himself in this form, this will be dealt with as appropriate to the rule book, and action will be taken against the player and against the team. Yeah. That would be a coaching penalty as well. We've seen it before. That would be the coach, Paul Dixon. Paul Dixon? That's not Paul Dixon. It's the GB coach, who's now there. It'll come back to me in a second when we're talking about something else completely unrelated. That's him not controlling his bench. So that would come in. Fuzz, you make the comment there, can the IHF not step in? I'm not entirely sure, if I'm totally honest. But again, I think because it's an exhibition game, because both teams have entered into it effectively in good faith as an exhibition game, I'm not 100% sure that they have anything there. I think realistically, the only thing that you've got there, it's effectively a rec game that the Devils have charged people to come in and watch. So it would only be if the opposition player decided to do something mental like press charges, if they happen to be injured. So I think that's kind of the boat that you're in with these international games.
Pete Russell.
Pete Russell, there you go. I was getting him mixed up with Guildford's coach there all of a sudden. Talking of Paul Dixon, I think I put this into our group chat. It's not in the running order, but did you see the social media piece that they were getting their headshots taken?
No.
I'm pretty sure it was. So he's suited and booted from the top half, but shorts on the bottom half.
That's just like you work from home, right? You're a remote worker as well. So when you're on Zoom all day, now fair enough. Today I do have jeans on, so I could stand up. But surely that's when you're a remote. I can stand up. I've got jeans on. Don't look so scared.
No, I'm just nobody told me we had to wear trousers tonight.
Exactly. When you're if you're a remote worker and you're working from home and you're on Zoom, you might have a nice shirt on and then shorts underneath. 100% acceptable.
There's what's acceptable, and then there's what your team puts on social media for you. Right, I'm going to run it quickly back there. We asked about any comments on the teams and everything this season, and Fuzz seems to be the only guy commenting on YouTube here tonight. Says he thinks it's Fox's last chance in Sheffield this year, or that potentially he maybe only has until Christmas and could get the boot before the end of the season.
Before Christmas?
Aaron? Yeah, what's your thoughts?
We have had coaches thrown out halfway through a season before?
We have. Nottingham have done it. I think Sheffield have done it in the past. I'm pretty sure a few others have also done it. I don't think you're wrong, Fuzz. I think we joked about some of the signings that teams made being interested in, and I think the sort of tongue-in-cheek one was Davy Phillips being signed for the Belfast Giants. I think everyone's like, oh, what's going on there? And since then, through pre-season and CHL, we've actually seen that's been an absolutely astonishing signing, getting him across from Sheffield. The news of Aaron Fox re-signing after playoffs and after a
Wasn't he
lackluster
the guy?
season.
Was that the guy that walked off before any?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
before.
At playoffs, he walked off before any handshakes and
Yes,
didn't stay for John O'Phillips for his skate off, but then I think came back out because I think he'd been told to go back out because it wasn't right for him to just disappear out at that point. He's also the
yes,
guy. He's also the guy who got captured on camera on the Elite League live stream, the post game interviews, swearing as he sat down. And I remember clipping that and sending that round to you guys
yes,
during playoffs when I was in the media room. That was just hilarious. It was fantastic.
yes. Sorry, I'm remembering now. Yeah, I 100% agree. I was surprised to see him back. I
Yeah,
think we're all
I
we
think
were all.
that's been the big surprise. Well, here he goes again. Fuzz, you're going to extend this show. There's only two of us now. Here, I thought it was going to be a short one, but here we go again. Fuzz asks, can Guildford repeat their incredible year from last year? Could be interesting to see how that goes. 100%. And to be totally honest, just for competition, I really hope they do. I think the teams in the top half of the Elite League have all strengthened in different ways. Um, Belfast have seen a particularly large roster change, uh, but we're victims of our own success. We were That's 3 years in a row with the league, a few years in a row with the Challenge Cup, and now getting the Grand Slam. Because if anyone forgot, just sort of over the summer and over the first couple of weeks of pre-season, the Belfast Giants won the Grand Slam in 2022-23. What have you got? Oh, there they are. Oh, there's
Sorry,
your playoff
just
cups.
playoff cups as well. Just to put them there. Sorry.
There you go. But yeah, the Giants were victims of their own success, and players have moved on. They've signed in bigger and better leagues, as anyone would do. Success breeds success, and it's great to see those guys move on to get extra opportunities in those bigger and better leagues. Guildford have done less. I think they're one of the teams like Cardiff who have stuck with a core, and I think Paul Dixon has proven what that team can do. And as I don't even want to call them a ranked team, as a leisure centre team, it's great to see those teams with what you suspect to be smaller budgets, whether you believe about the Elite League cap or not. It's great to see those guys do more with less. That being said, I don't think Guildford are in the sort of Dundee, Fife, Manchester zone of budget. I think they're above that. But I hope they do because the competition was fantastic. The fact it went to the last weekend of the season was fantastic. We all in Belfast we talk about the winning by Christmas season under Paul Adey. That was fantastic at the time, but then it got boring because we'd already done it, and things got a bit stale, and playoffs just were nowhere. Um, I think genuinely the reason that Belfast came through and won that Grand Slam last season is because they were pushed right to the end. Every single game from Christmas was like a playoff game. They
But
had to
if
be on the top of
you're
their
saying
game.
Christmas, I keep having Christmas in my head as well because at that point Guildford were runaway up
Yep,
until Christmas, and then there was a bit of a shuffling around, and then the Giants had to put their pedal to the metal, and as you said, every game counted.
exactly, and
But
that doesn't happen without competition though.
no,
And that's what I like to see. Cardiff got in the mix as well, and like let's not forget them. They look like they're going to be a force going into this season. I think Sheffield, while they're still with Aaron Fox, I think they have strengthened. Whether I think they've strengthened enough to breach higher than third, I'm not convinced. Nottingham, I don't think they've made changes, but I don't think they are going to break much farther than fifth or fourth. Now we're getting into preseason. We're getting into predictions, and let's not do that. So we'll leave that for another podcast, and we're going to talk about the last story that we've got here in period one. And Aaron, you were at the game. I'm going to let you go through this. Giants came home after playing 3 road games in the CHL. Unfortunately, coming back with no points, but not for a lack of trying. Honestly, with some of the games, the Innsbruck game, for example, could have, should have been a win, but for a few soft penalty calls and just not taking some of the grade A chances. They gave the reigning and defending CHL champions a good run through 30 minutes, and then saw the class of that Tapara team just kind of take over. Um, the other Finnish game could have been a win. It was a 1 goal game in the end, but things were corrected. The ship was righted, and the Giants took a 4-0 win against the Bolzano Foxes.
Before we go into that game, you we watched. Do you remember? So we were at Marty's house when we watched the
Yep,
game
we
and we
were.
got a boojum, and we all commented on how brave when Kiefer was being interviewed at the end after the just taking that loss. Do you remember the question that I can't remember the interviewer's name? He was just turned around to Kiefer and
Oh,
was like, "What was it?" I was like, "With 3 straight losses, how are you going to right this ship?" And you, all of us just went,
yeah.
"Oh," because
If
you just
if
saw the
looks
look
could
on
kill,
Kiefer's the look on
if looks
Kiefer's
could
face.
kill, I mean, you look at a coach of the playing pedigree and now the coaching pedigree of Adam Keefe, and you have the balls to ask a question like that to a guy who's standing 4 feet in front of you, well within swinging distance. Um,
The look was awesome.
that look was, yeah, like I say, if looks could kill.
Well, not
CHL commentators and interviewers have been interesting. I'm not for a second suggesting that I could do any better, but the have you seen the online highlights package of the Bolzano game?
no.
Because it's a really annoying highlights package because it's only 2 minutes and it's very short and only effectively captures the goals. Uh, but apparently Beskorowany has changed his name to Beskorowony.
Pescowoni.
It's watch it, and I would say to anyone to watch it. It's awful.
But anyway, going to the actual game itself, we kind of go through this every season where we kind of go, tell us about the first game that you get to of the season. And that was what this game was. I appreciate it's not the season, it's preseason. But the first game after the break there. And what a game. We've already talked about the stats there that it was, it was a 4-0 shutout. For Bescowani was absolutely on fire. It had a crowd of over 6,000 people there. I have to admit, I only got to really see the first and third period because my 5-year-old son decided that he needed to go for a walk during the second period. So I spent the second period going round and round the rink. But the 2 periods that I did see were absolutely amazing. And that third period, Besco, he was just on fire, absolutely on fire. And then we had a shorthanded goal, right? It was like, was it 3-3-4, 3-5? We were down
Can't
two
honestly
down two
remember, and
players.
I'll be totally honest. I've only been able to watch the 2 minute highlights package because while you guys had, like I said at the very start, while you guys were having the time of your life watching this 4-0 shutout,
Mm.
I was at a wedding in Donegal walking my daughter round the venue in her buggy because she decided to be an absolute terror that entire day. Enough so that we ended up not even staying in the Airbnb in Donegal and drove the 2 and a bit hours all the way back to my father in law's in Belfast that night because she was
5-on-3.
that bad.
Yeah. Yes, Fuzz has just confirmed it was a 5-on-3 goal. Absolutely amazing. So, yeah, Besco had 28 shots fired at him, saved them all. We took an early leave about 7 minutes in, and then it just got better from that. Period two, couple of we killed some early penalties as well there, but it was just an absolute outstanding game to be at.
Yeah, like I said, the 2 minute highlights are fantastic if you ignore the mispronunciation of Besco's name. Um, it's fantastic to get off the mark. It is the Giants' first win of the season as well.
Mhm.
We've had the 2 pre-season games against Cardiff and 3 away games in the CHL, all of them unfortunately L's. This, I think, first competitive game, let's call it, in front of the home crowd. Yes, the game against Cardiff was competitive, but there was nothing on the line. There was no points on the line. 6,000 plus people in the arena. That was the game the Giants needed. That was the result the Giants needed. And their first shutout in the CHL as well is just epic. And there's no one better to have there. Again, this is a competition and a position that Besco has earned. The couple of times where he's helped us compete and qualify for the CHL, he hasn't actually been here for the CHL campaign. This is his first run at the CHL with the Giants, and he's clearly enjoying himself. Campbell's coming back and just correcting us on that the 5-on-3 was in the Innsbruck game, and I think you're 100% right there.
But we were definitely down to
Besco loving it. Besco loving it as well.
Yeah, we were definitely down to 3 skaters in the second period at some point. I'm 100% confident in that. Well, I say maybe we didn't get the goal.
I do think you're right.
We killed it. We killed a 5-on-3 on Saturday.
Yep,
you're absolutely
that's right.
Cheers, Campbell.
Yep, they are. See, Campbell, that's why we have a Facebook page. That's why we maintain that just for you.
Just for you.
Come on here, just for you, so you can come on here and you can correct us because we've no idea what we're talking about. So yeah, and that's the image that's kind of gone viral this week as well, is Besco basically just living his best life, standing in the crease and loving the fact that the guys out on the ice are doing the job for him. I think listening to A View from the Bridge, listening to Davey with the stats for the game at home, something like 20 block shots in that game. So you can say that Besco was standing on his head, and he absolutely was. He pulled off some absolutely fantastic saves. But the guys putting their body on the line as well. We took injuries for it as well.
We did.
I think there's three guys who didn't return for the third period because of taking block shots. I think there's one to the knee. There's an undisclosed injury, I think, to Garside as well, who didn't return for the third period, and another one. So, that was a full team 60-minute performance, and those are what we need if we want to repeat the Grand Slam. We're going to have to do that night after night for a full season, and that's what we can get. We can get those results, so it's fantastic to see.
And our guys looked fast that night, and I wish I had names of actual players that were like really kind of took my breath away a few times. It was like the speed that they were able to get up from one.
I'll tell you who one of them is, who's massively impressed me, is Koi Sato.
Right.
Koi Sato looks the business. Once the lines get settled, and I think that top 2 lines are starting to get settled now, but Koi Sato looks fantastic. If McLeod can get into the sort of form that he had towards the back end of last season, I know he only came in at the back end of last season, then he'll be great as well. There's Fuzz making the exact same point as me. McLeod and Sato, they are danger guys for this year, for us, for the season. They're going to be absolutely lights out. And I'll throw it out there, I said it on social media and I took some crap for it through the off season. Barriga looks brilliant, and I said tongue-in-cheek on Twitter when the signing was announced that I was loving the way that the Giants over the last few seasons have taken those little diamonds in the rough from other teams, being very, very tongue-in-cheek, obviously alluding to bringing in Besco from Edinburgh back in the day, bringing in Shane Owen from Fife, and then bringing in the likes of Barriga from Dundee, who's basically just hopped in the same bus that Mace has jumped in on his way back over the RSA. He's been fantastic for me over the games that I've seen so far. So I think, are we on it again? No, we're doing predictions again. Let's not do it.
Next season, next one.
Next,
Campbell and Fuzz, make sure you get your predictions in for the next podcast. Think about that so that when we're recording that, you can
absolutely. And anyone
of course, anyone, yes,
hit us up on the socials at Door14, pretty much everywhere. Although to be fair, if you send us a what's that called? A TikTok, we'll probably not see it.
A what?
a TikTok. Because all of us,
I'm
because
joking.
all of us are far too old for TikTok. Let's be totally honest.
Whatever
Aaron,
happened to the other one? Hold on. Talking about social media, was there not another one that we had to set up recently? Did we look at
oh, there's
that?
Threads, but I don't know who actually
Threads.
uses Threads.
Does anyone use Threads? Can we stream to Thread?
Do you know what? It's probably like TikTok, and probably everyone under the age of like 21 is over there right now. But we're of a
We're not
certain
cool
age.
We're not cool
And
enough.
let's be honest, Marty's so old now that if we just keep introducing new social medias,
I
he's
know.
just going to get confused.
Celebrating his 65th birthday today.
I know. Just incredible what that guy does at that age.
Telling
Just
you.
incredible. Aaron, anything else for period 1 before we move on?
No, just glad hockey's back.
That's it. Right, we'll move swiftly on to period 2.
It's me.
It
Welcome.
is you.
I was like, what are you doing, John? Welcome back to period 2 for international hockey. Now we actually only have the one story here because just like us, all the other teams are taking a wee summer break, playing some golf. So John, you have one story in the mix there that I've got to admit makes a hell of a lot more sense to me after, because was it yourself or Marty shared that thing on TikTok
Yep.
a couple of days ago, and I was like, what is this all about? John, tell us about what's going on here.
Yeah, so this is the news that broke a couple of days ago coming out of Columbus, that Columbus head coach Mike Babcock is under fire a little bit for asking players as the sort of pre-season training sessions are kicking off in the NHL to come into his office and bring their phones with them, where the coaching staff and specifically Mike Babcock are asking players to airplay their video or their photos, their photo albums to a screen in his office, and also asking to see their browsing history to, in his I think words, to get an understanding of what the players are up to. Now,
Was he actually asking for the browser history? I thought that was just in the TikTok video. I only
No,
read
so
about the
I think
pictures.
there has been an indication now that he has asked for that as well. Please don't sue us if I'm wrong. The news broke on a small North American podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Spittin' Chicklets. Former Elite League player Matt Bissonnette has been basically championing the players in this situation, and that he has said that he's heard it from multiple sources that this is indeed the case. So much so that the Columbus Blue Jackets put out a statement yesterday, 2 days ago, on September 12th, from Mike Babcock, saying that while meeting with our players and staff, I asked them to share from their phones family pictures as part of the process of getting to know them better. There was absolutely nothing more to it than that. This was the way this was portrayed on the Spittin' Chicklets podcast was a gross misrepresentation of those meetings and extremely offensive. These meetings have been very important and beneficial, not only for me, but for our players and staff as well. And to have them depicted like this is irresponsible and completely inaccurate. The Columbus Blue Jackets captain, Boone Jenner, who has been in the press as having, I think unofficially and through Spittin' Chicklets, they've said that he's not really taken with this, but he's toed the party line here and has put out a joint statement with Babcock, and he's said, while meeting with Babs, he asked me about my family and where I'm from, my upcoming wedding and hockey-related stuff. He then asked if I had pictures of my family, and I was happy to share some with him. He showed me pictures of his family. I thought it was a great first meeting and good way for us to start to build a relationship. To have this blown out of proportion is truly disappointing. Now, since then, some more bits and pieces have come out, and through different media, there have been basically comments thrown at Mike Babcock, who has let's call it a checkered history in the NHL anyway. And former NHLer Mike Commodore has gone out on social media and basically said that Mike Babcock is a pervert, amongst many other things. There's a fairly lengthy Twitter line that Mike has put out. He said that all of this is 100% true. I've heard about the exact same incident out of Columbus 6 weeks ago. Recently heard about it happening to multiple players and staff. And he has said himself that he was waiting until training camp was done before he mentioned anything to protect what he called his sources. Aaron, this is a tough one, I think, at this point for us to pass any judgment on, because I don't think there's been any further. Now, Spit and Chicklets, I've got to say, are doubling down on this. Mike Bissonnette is doubling down on his pressure on Babcock and on the Blue Jackets on social media. Biz has an enormous following, as does Spit and Chicklets, and people will take their word as writ, as do the dozens and dozens of Door 14 fans who will take everything that we say as writ. I'm sure
100%.
Fuzz and Campbell, who are
who've corrected us multiple
here,
times already,
who just kept us on the right path, but they clearly believe absolutely everything that we say. This is too fronted, isn't it? If it's true, it's not a great look for Babcock. It's not a great look for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Separately, you've got an external, unconnected, independent, let's call them media, because these day and age podcasts are a proven form, a legitimate form of media, effectively of journalism as well. There are people who make careers out of podcasting as journalists. What's your take on it?
Do you know, when I read the Columbus statement first, it actually took me back to when I first joined the company that I worked for, and I went out to their head office. We doing exercises similar to this, not like this, but similar to this for ice breaking, for team building, isn't uncommon. Now, fair enough. In the ice breaking that I'm used to, I've never had to share photos on my phone. If I have shared photos, it's because you've done your ice breaking and you're like, hey, I'm getting married or whatever, and you might show your phones in your photos in your phone. The ones that I've kind of seen go are like, hey, show us on Google Maps something that's close to your home that means something to you in your childhood, and you get to tell a story about that kind of thing. And that was really effective, but never have I had to share something on my phone. But I think ice breaking exercises like this aren't uncommon. Would you have anything like that, John? And you started a new role recently. Did they have any team building icebreakers like that as well, knowing how to?
I think. Well,
because this is because it's a new player. It's a new player coming in. And
no, this is Babs going through with everyone effectively, and doing this. I think the major issue here is about the tone of it and how it's been done.
Yeah.
I think where maybe the corporate world does it, it's more of a, I want to call it, without having experience of it, maybe an optional thing, and it's also a group exercise.
True. Oh, yes. Sorry, massive group exercise. You've got 4 or 5 people,
and it's effectively done. If you want to do it, that sort of thing you can do. This is a coach. Let's call it it's their direct boss. This is the guy who decides whether they get to play, whether it's 1-on-1 or with other members of the coaching staff or whatever. But these guys are being put on the spot in a room in his office, which, let's be honest, you get, it's like going back to school. You get called into the principal's office. You get pulled into your boss's office. That 9 times out of 10, it's probably not for a good reason. So you're already on edge about that. And I'm sure pro hockey players, they can handle pressure, but these guys have the keys to the career of these players.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go into that situation and you're going to say, well, sorry, coach, I'm not really happy with how you're asking. I'm not really happy with what you're asking me to do here, so I'm not going to do it. That's very easy for Babcock to say, right, well, you're on waivers, we're trading you, and you're going to get no ice time because
Yeah.
I don't know you, I don't trust you, you're not doing what I say, you're uncoachable. I think that's where the vitriol is coming from this, and it seems to be incredibly defensive right off the foot from the Blue Jackets in the way that they've attacked this. And yes, I understand that Chicklets has a massive platform. And like I say, people will take what they say and they will run with it. So yes, the Blue Jackets, if they feel like they've got something to defend, they have to defend it. What I hope comes from this is that the organisation is proved right for backing the coach. But unfortunately, Babs has a track record. Various things.
That doesn't help. That doesn't help the matter.
It doesn't help. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out over coming days, and how that affects the team going forward into the season when it does finally start.
As you say, we can't really pass judgment until we find out more. The pictures thing is weird. If the browser thing is true, that's not on at all.
Yeah.
So that, and when you or Marty shared that TikTok, that was kind of the focus of the TikTok. You're like, we just want to make sure that you're a good guy. We don't want to check any, you're not doing anything weird.
If that happened in my work, nobody needs to see how many times I have to check how long to boil an egg for. Like, honestly, like there's information that I really should be able to store in my brain that I continually have to Google. It's part of our generation, and nobody needs to see that.
I was just like, what do you buy? Someone who's turning 70 years old for their birthday. Like that kind of internet history.
It's exactly like that. To be honest, I was actually just looking at Fife in Glasgow for his trip over, just to make sure that they had some ground level accessible seats.
Yep.
I don't want the old boy having to do the stairs. Aaron, we only had the one story in period 2. Anything else that you can think of in there?
No, I'm good to move on to the next period.
Right, let's move on to period 3. Period 3 is our general knocky news.
Damn, knocky news!
There, we got there in the end. Knocky news then is, if you haven't listened before, where we throw stories that either don't really hit nicely into periods 1 or 2, or generally where we just think there's a bit more chit chat to be had with them, and a bit of fun. Aaron, I'm going to start. We have to go back to Cardiff.
2 seconds on that. I have done a little bit of prep work for this particular story. Okay. I'm going to go off camera for 2 minutes because I've created myself some memorabilia.
Okay. It's worrying that you say 2 minutes because I don't know what I'm going to do.
No. 2 seconds. Just talk for 2 seconds.
Okay. So I'm going to intro. I'll intro the story if you like. So this past week, the Cardiff Devils released some questionable merchandise with the players skating out at the end of their game wearing what is called the Cardiff Devils fan chain. An enormous, colourful, as they put it, I'm assuming plastic chain.
What do you think, John?
Outstanding.
I made one for myself.
Do you know what? I'd buy that.
Yep.
I'd buy that. You're absolutely spot on. So, as the Cardiff Devils website puts it, their thick and colourful fan chain is the perfect way to show your pride for your team. Professionally crafted from thick, vibrant EVA foam, it's layered with 3 foam pieces to make up this magnificent piece. The Cardiff Devils fan chain is durable and lightweight. Represent your team with pride with the stylish, unique fan chain. They are charging £22 for red, black, white and gold foam.
I was able to get this from one of my wife's handbags. Just want to say it. So this didn't cost me a thing. I think this was a Christmas present from my sister from a good Etsy site. So do you know what? This was John's got one, and that's one the Flyers one there. So yeah, this didn't cost me a thing. Maybe I'll wear it the next game.
I mean, sure, this thing's horrendous, right?
Were you on the last pod that we get to talk? Did you talk about the logo? Did we get your thoughts on the logo
Oh
itself?
yeah. The logo's horrendous. The reasoning behind the logo is ridiculous. The idea that all the different things represent different parts is also horrendous. The idea that the horns say C and D is complete nonsense. It's a lie. The flames, no, the devil is just hairy. It's a travesty of a rebrand, if I'm totally honest. And we covered it in detail at the last podcast,
Yep.
so we'll not go back into.
But do you not think they're like so? Then they're just doubling down on it, though. They're like,
Yeah.
we hear you, we hear all the pushback, but you know what? We don't care. I'm gonna go even further and make this horrendous looking.
Screw you guys! Look at this.
Yeah.
That's effectively what they've done, and they've done it in the least classy way possible. Like I genuinely can't wait to see the first batch of away fans who decide to come to Belfast wearing those things, because they will be ridiculed up and down the SSE. Like,
have you seen
there's
much
wearing
on Twitter?
A foam finger. There's wearing a foam finger. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of sporting tradition and all the rest of it. Look, every team has some questionable merch, either through what it is, the item that it is, the quality of it, let's say, or whatever. This thing is on a different level altogether. It's brutal.
But have we seen, like, what are Cardiff fans' reactions to it? Have you seen
Honestly,
any reactions?
I haven't seen any reaction because I don't care enough to look and see what the reaction is. But I guarantee you there will be an audience for that. There's an audience for everything. There will be Cardiff fans who were so vitriolic about the rebrand and the new logo and would have started like, not my logo and not my Devils and all the rest of it. Give them 6 weeks, they'll be buying crap like that.
Yeah.
And they'll be wearing it to every game, and it'll be handed down for 3 generations, or at least 15 years until the Devils decide to rebrand again. And it then becomes a worthless piece of rubber trap round everyone's neck.
What was the reason behind it? So did you say this again? What was the reason behind it? Or are they just?
Oh, there was multiple reasons, but their main one was that they wanted the logo to be scalable. They said that.
No. Sorry. What was the reason for the Goldie looking chain? Just money.
They want to make money. It's merch. It's nonsense. It's money. It's stuff for their social media. And let's say, I'm sure it's been a massive success for them. And I'm sure they'll make a bit of money off it. But to me, it's just a horrendous thing to have. Marty actually threw that story up there, and he asked a question that honestly I don't have an answer for off the top of my head right now. But he's asked, what is the weirdest or most bizarre merch you've ever seen? And if anyone in the comments has something.
We had one. Fair enough. It was of the time, and it was the was it £5 for antiseptic hand clean?
Oh yeah, Fife.
But yeah.
Like,
that was a bit weird.
That was weird and tone deaf.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll accept that that's weird and bizarre merch. Yep. I can't think of like stuff. Do you know what? I've probably seen like stuff that I've scoffed at, either like in the Hall of Fame or in some of the NHL arenas going into their shops, because there is some bizarre stuff that you can pick up out and about the place. But I honestly can't think. Do you know what? I'm going to take it as homework. I'm going to do a bit of research, and I'm going to find some of the weirdest and most bizarre merch. On the flip side, I will say that the Giants released what I think was one of the strangest but most useful pieces of branded merch ever. And there's only one of the 4 of us has one. And we always cheer whenever Dave brings this out. and it's the 4-pint plastic holder that
Yes.
has the Giants logo on it. Absolutely love that thing, and I wish they
Yeah.
would re-release it, because let's face it, the Giants rebranded too, so we need a new 4-pint holder.
Do you know what I have kicking about and I found recently as well? I have God, what even season is it? I have top trump cards of the Giants. So so you've got the top trumps,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's of every player and it's stats, so you can
Mm-hmm.
play top trumps. That's going back there. I thought I brought that down here somewhere.
That's
I'll have it. I'll
unfortunate.
have.
If that's unfortunate if you come up against someone who's got the 5-pack. For them, I mean.
Yes. Well, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose there hasn't been the weird stuff, and maybe this is why it's rubbing up against us. Is that this is just the weird end of merch coming back, maybe. And that's
Anthony's
where we
just
are
put
now.
up some, so he has talking about a toaster. Yeah, having a
Yeah, yeah.
toaster.
So
But here, the question: if you were able to get a toaster that burned Finn's face onto your toast, would you buy it? You know the way you get those ones with where you get like Darth Vader, and you can get Darth
yeah,
Vader on
well,
your
that's
toast.
that's what Anthony's talking about there. In that
Does
one,
that
but
actually do that?
I wouldn't buy the toaster. I mean, no, that's super weird. But he does make a good point, and one that I'd completely forgotten about: the Steelers bedding. When the Steelers released bedding, that was super weird. And actually, I can roll that to Belfast, because Belfast once did bedding as well, and it was weird. It was come and pick up your bed sheets for tonight, with all the
Was it
logos and
single or
stuff.
double? Like
I
for
think they were
single for
singles. I think they
kids?
were kids. I think they were singles for
That's all
kids.
right. That
But I
doesn't.
think
That's fine.
now I think, and Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Devil or the Steelers did theirs in like doubles and queens and kings and stuff, as if whole families were going to go out there and deck out all their beds in Steelers merch.
If it's
Now,
if
to
it's
be fair,
singles, I'm okay
if you
with that.
go
That's
if you go
kids.
to enough Steelers games, you could probably patch together enough of their free rally towels to make yourself some bedding. Um, so that's neither here nor there. Um,
Anthony also confirmed that the toaster did actually burn the logo into the piece of toast. I'm all
yeah,
for that.
Fuzz should do a competition to find who can find the weirdest hockey merch. What do you think we've got to give away in a competition? Are you putting the prize up, Fuzz? Anyway, I'm going to move us on here, because we could get lost into a black hole of weird
I
merch here. We
unfortunately
probably
I
will at a
can't give
later date.
away. I can't give away this merch. This is part of my wife's handbag, and this is I really like this logo.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm
go
really
for
gonna
it,
enjoy.
John.
I'm really gonna enjoy you playing about with that next to your microphone now. Um, right, we've just come through roughly the second week of pre-season, and this last weekend especially, things got feisty in the UK in hockey. We had the Dundee Fife games. They got feisty. Plenty of fights, plenty of fisticuffs going on there. The Nottingham Sheffield games got physical, fights going on there. The NIHL, there were multiple fights and actually line brawls and bench clearances within the NIHL. What's going on? Is it
Yeah,
is this players just coming back to the game? Is it are
but is it?
things just getting away from them?
Did you not? Maybe you hinted that this. You kind of hinted at this earlier, which is that these games don't have any, well, potentially don't have any repercussions.
Well, they do and they don't. It'd be interesting to hear. So for the NIHL, for example, there were exhibition games in the NIHL. It'd be interesting to know there, because those are teams in the same league. Those are teams who come under the same jurisdiction. Surely something might happen there, and I'm sure if there was dangerous play in the games between the Elite League teams, that then the remit of the Elite League, like we talked about earlier on, that would then trigger. But in the NHL, for example, the game between the Phantoms and the Raiders, there were fights at the doors. There were guys getting taken off the ice, and there were fights continuing at the doors to the ice. There were bench clearances, like I said. There were line brawls. even Carter Hamill was getting involved in fights in the NIHL as well this weekend past. So I don't know. It's been a while since we've seen things sort of go out and explode in that way. And to be honest, the only reason I was aware of it, and I don't know if you follow them, but British Hockey Fights are at Hockey Fights UK on X, or let's be honest, Twitter. Let's just call it Twitter. They just kept popping up over the weekend on my feed, because there was just fight after fight after fight after brawl going on across the UK. It was just mental. Anthony, correct me there that Carter Hamill's fight was actually a league game, not a challenge match. And yeah, you're right. Brandon Miles did knock him about a bit, but fair play to Carter for standing up, because he was about half the height of Miles in that fight, and it was good to see him not back down. I don't know. I don't know how to read into it. We're early in the season, so is it just guys with their blood up?
Yeah, I don't know. I say I was just thinking back to your comment earlier about, because it's pre-season. I appreciate the example there. It wasn't pre-season, but if it's pre-season, they're not going to get any bans in the actual season from from what happens here, then is it a time that they let their blood boil a little bit, let their hair down and get into it? Or is it just, as you say, straight in, first couple of games, let's get stuck in, and they just let themselves get away with it? Sorry, I'm laughing. I got distracted by Campbell's comment.
Yeah, there we go. Campbell coming in with the top quality content that we all need right now. Is X a worse rebrand than the Devils? I don't think anything's a worse rebrand than the Devils this season. Not in the slightest.
What's Campbell going to do when they rebrand Facebook to Y?
What's he going to do when they close Facebook?
Shocking.
Shocking to think it. Right, Aaron, I'm going to move us on to the last story here, and it's a very quick, very short one. I don't want to say that news broke today, because it's broken on this day for quite a number of years, actually, as it turns out. And that's the news that Belfast Giants own number 14 Sean Norris. It's his birthday.
Way!
So we just want to take the opportunity, as Door 14, to say happy birthday to Sean Norris, who I'm sure is a very small percentage of the age of our poor old man of the podcast, Marty, who is celebrating his 91st birthday today.
91,
celebrated it yesterday, but is out celebrating it again tonight. It's incredible what that man's able to do at his age. Absolutely incredible that he can help us run this podcast.
The energy that he has.
Energy of a man less than half his age. It's just incredible. But no, I just want to say happy birthday to Sean Norris. And I've done it on a couple of podcasts now, but I just want to thank him again for his time at playoffs. He was one of the best guys to chat to over playoffs. It was fantastic to chat to him, and I look forward to hopefully chatting to him a little bit more as we go through this season, as well as we progress some ideas for content that will hopefully be coming soon.
I like this idea.
Yep. With that in mind, we are finished with period 3. However, I am going to take us to overtime.
Whoever. I'm going to keep my chain on for overtime.
Yeah, me and everyone watching and listening can also hear that you're going to keep it on.
Oh, does it make a lot of noise?
You're fine. It's only when you move it. The overtime, I've got to say, the overtime segment video always gives me palpitations, because it's the only one that for some reason we never put music onto. So it always terrifies me. It is. It's incredibly quiet. There's like 2 or 3 seconds of silence. Aaron, we are in overtime, and we're in overtime for one reason and one reason alone, and that's because Marty did a thing. He wants us to have a chat about jerseys. Now, there are a few jerseys in the Elite League that have already been released. There are still a couple that are yet to be released. Hopefully, if this works, I'm going to be able to show this.
No, you are.
Look,
Technology at its best here.
I don't know if this is going to work or not. Let's be totally honest, but let's try it anyway. It didn't work, so never mind. Let's just like we knew that stuff like this was going to happen. Basically, I've had a massive warning that just said this isn't going to work. So we have 6 released jerseys to date. There are a few teams yet to release their jerseys for the coming season. But let's start looking through. Let's start with our own Belfast Giants. Now, there are alternate jerseys throughout the league as well. We're concentrating on the main home and away jerseys. Aaron, we're going to spend more time talking about the Belfast ones. We've chatted in our group chat about them. What's your thoughts on the home and away jerseys for the Giants this season?
Do you like my really steady camera work here?
It's fantastic.
I'm not... Okay, hold on. First of all, they are Giants jerseys, and they're not a massive takeaway from last season. But I don't really get the tie-dye type look. I don't what's going on. What is happening with the tie-dye? Do we know what the reasoning is behind that?
Nope, no idea.
Okay, it's just the design feature. I have to admit, I preferred. Was it last season where we had like the hexagon shapes from the Giants causeways as the background?
Yep.
Like there's little pattern. I thought that was more like it was more in tune to Northern Ireland and had the art, the one in the story. I will admit I preferred last season's jersey over this season.
Aaron, honestly, I'm going to tell you, flip that background. We will throw up pictures on socials of the jerseys later on for people as they and they can peruse them. The idea of a shaky cam going on for the next 5 minutes is just giving me palpitations. And Marty,
tried.
Marty will be cringing trying to do that, trying to watch it even. Belfast Giants jerseys, I actually quite like them. And
really?
My main one is, now I haven't seen it in person yet, but from everything that I've seen on social media, now I like it as it's presented, but what I've heard is that it doesn't look just as stark in person. I think the way that it's been photographed with the arena light on it, I think that has made a massive difference to it. The one thing I do love is the gold accents on it this season. And you guys have ribbed me before about gold and / yellow. This is definitely gold because it's gold for champions. We were the Grand Slam champions. Therefore, we were the only ones who took home any sort of gold or silver last season. So therefore, that's why we put the gold on the jersey this season. And actually, I love it. And that home jersey will be coming home with me at some point this season. The away jersey, I think in general that's been the more positively received one across the fan base. I just think it's very plain. I think it looks like every away jersey we've ever had, and I get that the away jersey has to do a thing. It has to be an away jersey. It has to be a white jersey. But there's ways to make that look individual.
Yep.
Fuzz is on there, and like I said, we're only concentrating on the home and away Challenge Cup. I'm 100% with you. I think it's actually the superior jersey, but unfortunately, I'm not a challenge. I'm not not the Challenge Cup. I think you're wrong. The Challenge Cup jersey is horrendous. Sorry, I'm going to take your comment off there. The red jersey, it's awful. The red jersey is awful.
You're talking about the CHL
jersey. The season ticket jersey is peak. I absolutely love it. The black jersey with the teal accents and stuff, I think is perfect. I think that's the perfect Belfast Giants jersey as well. Moving on.
Oh, no. Oh. You bring up Campbell's comment.
Oh, sorry. Campbell says he's with Aaron. Oh, that's why you want it brought up. I'm with Aaron. Not plus the tie-dye look. Like last year's better.
No, I will.
Do you know what? That's what you get from the Facebook generation.
That's what you get. I will admit I agree with the gold accents and the reasoning behind it. But again, as I said, I just preferred the call back to the Giants Causeway and the other jerseys.
If you were buying one this season, what one would it be out of the 4?
Oh, it'll be the home jersey.
After all that,
Even after all that, and I will be even after all that. Um, well, I
okay.
can't buy that. I'm not a season ticket holder, so I can't buy the season ticket one.
We do know people though.
We do know people, and I want to. Last year's, you said that they're still for sale.
They are. If you go down to Ice Locker Campbell, you'll be able to get one of last year's. They're going a little bit cheaper. To be honest, not much, but a little bit cheaper. Right, come on, let's move on. We've got another five lots of jerseys to look at here. Coventry
Are
Blaze.
we going through them all? I thought you were just going to choose. Tell me what to
No, no,
choose.
no.
Which
Let's
one?
let's quickly rattle through these, and we can look at the other four teams once they've released. Hopefully, in the next podcast. Well, it'll definitely have to be because all the teams will be in action. Coventry Blaze. Have they done anything out of the ordinary? I think it looks like
No.
every Coventry Blaze jersey we've ever seen for the last how many years have I
Coventry.
been going to hockey? Like
Yeah.
15 years. It's
Yep.
just a Blaze jersey, isn't it?
Yep.
Uh,
Cardiff is just Cardiff, but with the new logo, isn't it?
well, Cardiff is Cardiff with the new logo. The off-centre stripes are really off-putting across both jerseys. The grey stripes are horrendous, and actually are a copy of our CHL jersey from last year, which is, I mean, they can't help.
Did they always have
themselves
the
but copy?
Did they always have the tridents at the bottom of the jerseys?
No, that's new. It looks like a fence. It looks like one of those
Fence.
old Victorian fences round a garden. It just it looks so stupid. No part of that rebrand is working. To be perfectly honest, and the less said about it, the better. So let's move on. Let's move on to the Dundee Stars. Dundee have done similar to the Blaze, in my opinion. It looks like every Dundee Stars jersey we've ever seen. There's been a lot of hate, I'll be honest, about their Challenge Cup jersey online. It's the light blue sort of tonal thing. Not a lot of people taken with that jersey. Unfortunately, being in the Belfast Giants, we're going to see it about 8,000 times this season. I'm going to skip the next one. I'm going to go to the last one. Let's go to the Nottingham Panthers. Home jersey, pretty same. They've switched the colour blocks and they've gone with the black as the main colour rather than the yellow or gold, whatever you deem to be the colour that the Panthers play in. Custard, I believe, is the traditional colour they use. The away jersey, though, is interesting.
I like it.
The block white of the chest and right arm, but then the black stripe really does add. I think it adds. I think you're right. It adds something to that jersey.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that jersey. I think it's bold, the diagonal design, as you said, the black. Are you talking about the black stripe at the bottom, or are you talking about the big
the big block on the
Yeah,
arm.
I'm
I
a
think
fan
that
of it.
looks. I think that looks pretty cool. I think that's.
It's
And
and
it
it's
pains
different.
me to say it's different. Exactly, it's different, and because it's an away jersey, it stands out more because they've done
Yeah.
something different with an away jersey. The other thing I like, and it's the reason I've kept the last one to last, is I like the Panthers jersey because it looks clean. It looks very clean of sponsors, but the team who are much cleaner
Who've won?
of sponsors, who, to be honest, I think have got some of the best jerseys this season, are the Fife Flyers.
I can't disagree with you on that one. Now, there's two sides to that, really. Unfortunately, is it that they're not getting the sponsorships, and so that they are able to now they do have some like Specsavers, and they've got a few other ones there, so they're not
so
having to
what I-
cram their jersey with sponsors, which
Yeah,
then
what the
affects the team.
Flyers have done over the last few seasons is they have what they call their Great Eight sponsors. So what I imagine they have done is that their Great Eight sponsors are paying a premium to be on the jersey, as opposed to the likes of Dundee, the traditional Sheffield Steelers jersey, which is just a moving advertisement for 8,000 businesses, and I expect this season to be no different. All those sponsors will be paying slightly less than what I suspect. Well, less in when you put it into perspective between the franchises for being on the jersey. I suspect the Flyers are able to do that and keep that jersey clean because their grade 8 are represented there by paying a slightly higher premium. And then they have all the rink sponsors and everything else that will be paying for being on the boards, for being the penalty kill sponsor, the puck sponsor, the puck out of play sponsor, and whatever else that you happen to do. To me, that's ideal because what you end up with is a jersey with a little bit more team character. Now, again, I'll say it, the home and away jerseys are not my favourite. If you've got 20 seconds spare, go and look at the Challenge Cup jersey for the Fife Flyers. That is peak. Now, if I happen to go down to Kirkcaldy through the season, as I probably will, if I happen to accidentally go on a Challenge Cup game and I accidentally happen to hand a few quid to a shirt off the back, I'll not be heartbroken. I'll not be heartbroken if I win it. But I won't be spending money to buy a jersey.
Starting the conversion.
Oh no, I've got a Flyers jersey in the house hanging up. I have no qualms about where I come from, where I got into hockey, but I'm not a Flyers fan. But that Challenge Cup jersey is sweet.
I agree. I really like their jersey, and it is down to how clean it is, how the lovely stripes across the middle, the tartan on the inside of the home jersey, and then the tartan on the arms.
Away.
Is it?
Tartan's on the away. White's away. White's always away.
Oh, apologies. Yeah. It's on the way jersey. It is really nice. My concern, as I said earlier, are they that is a team that needs funding, additional funding. They've said before. So are they going for a cleaner jersey rather than trying to get some additional funding?
I think that's ultimately a team decision, and they've obviously made their call with this. So I mean, hopefully the team is functional with whatever they're getting. But if that's the end result and that's the decision that they've made, as I think they have, then I think that's peak, because I'd love to see more teams doing that.
And I think the home jersey's closer to like an NHL jersey at the moment now. Well, if you think about the NHL jersey, with that wee small. Well, I appreciate the FFDR logo's it's big enough, but like, with the NHL now having that small logo in the top corner.
Yep. That jersey, the blue with the two yellow stripes, that emulates the Flyers jerseys from like the 50s and 60s. Back where there were like these fitted knitted things, and that's kind of what the Flyers wore. So I like it for that reason. But like I say, the go-to.
We can trigger Marty here. We can trigger Marty. It's a proper retro jersey.
Oh, and let's not go too far. What I like about the away jersey is that if you remember the Flyers jersey that I have, Marty refers to it as the seizure jersey. So it's the full tartan, like blue and yellow on the white. My idea is that now, with the tartan under the arms in the away jersey, you know the dinosaur in Jurassic Park that has the big frill on its neck and it spits the like tar? My idea is that the Flyers come up the ice, and if a defenseman comes anywhere near them, they just raise their arms and the opposition player is just blinded and they get past them. I'm sure that's exactly what it is. Take that as rip, because you heard it here on the Door 14 Hockey Podcast.
That's what they're going to do. And what are they? I'm not going to say it. Doesn't matter.
Aaron, with that, we have nothing else left to discuss on this episode of the podcast, unless you have anything else.
No, we just again need to do a massive shout out to Marty celebrating his 100th birthday yesterday. Absolutely legend, so he is. So it's good to have him.
Absolutely, yeah. As you say, the legend that is Martin Branney celebrating his centenary. Really glad you made it to this stage, and I know you're really looking forward to receiving that letter from the King. So keep your eyes on that post box, mate. I'm sure it's on its way. With that, then, that is the end of episode 104 of the
nearly 14. As old as me.
Exactly. Guys, you know where to hit us up by now on our socials. We're on Twitter, because we refuse to call it X, Facebook, Instagram, and a number of other places. Our username on all of those is @Door14Hockey. You can catch our previous episodes and a few blogs that we've written over the years on our website at door14hockey.com. And you can listen back to any episodes of the podcast on our on your podcast provider of choice, or you can ask your smart speaker to play the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. With that, I've been Marty, and you are...
I'm Aaron.
Have a great week and enjoy the hockey where...
Oh,
That's the wrong one. So
that was perfect.
I'm going to do this again and not cut myself off. So enjoy your hockey wherever you are.
Well done.